All right, here we have 3 beautiful, heavily textured cloaks, been painted using simpler methods than you think. We're going to be going from a dark base first, a lighter base second, and then we're going to be doing kind of a hybrid classic method at the end. Much more doable than you would think, and if you've got an army which has plenty of these, especially if they're very textured ones rather than like big, smooth, sweeping, open ones, I would really, really thoroughly recommend it. Paints, by the way, I'll give a breakdown, and we'll have a list of conversions at the end. You can absolutely just follow this method though with your own colors. Let's jump in. All right, we have 3 beautiful draped, very theatrical curtain-like cloaks going on here. And they are busy. There is a lot of texture going on all of them. And especially if you compare them to, this isn't even a full-length cloak, more open, large Space Marine Captain cloak from Armageddon. These are a lot harder to paint like manually, but they will paint themselves if we use dry brushing much more easily. So as long as we select the right colors and we take a little bit of care with the dry brushing process, we should be able to do an amazing job. And this is probably how, especially for army painting, I recommend that you approach these. The base coat will matter, or the undercoat rather, so these have started from black, but I'm going to either manually base coat it just by hand, or you could start from grey sear or something else. The lighter your undercoat, the lighter your following colour will be. Okay, so to work out our colours, I'm going to quickly blob some stuff down on my palette. Hopefully that will show you my thinking. This is how we're going to work out what's going to work. So my palette is black, as is my model, so we'll get a very good idea here. But if my model was white, then I'd do it on a white section of my palette. So working things out, all I'm going to do is just some little stripes of colour. They don't have to be, the blending doesn't matter particularly. This is how I work out whether something is a good idea or not. So basically, if those two look cool together and next to each other, it's a yes. If this starting red was a bit too different to that red, or this red wasn't different enough or something, I'll observe that just by doing that tiny 1 second does it look cool test. I think that does look cool, so we're going to be good to go. So we're going to be going from claret to cherry. Both of them are a little bit cooler than normal, and that should allow us to get a very, very nice kind of velvety deep red looking cloak. Base coating is however you like. You can see it doesn't look like I'm taking a huge amount of care here. Claret's a really cool color, but it's not like mega on coverage. So I expect this is going to take me a few steps. You could always mix in a little bit of something else, depending what you're going for. Like I can mix it in with a little bit of the cherry at first, and then just put the claret over that. But you get your base coat down however you like. Airbrush is absolutely fine. Just make sure you don't miss the recesses. The recesses are far more important than the raised areas, and allow things to dry fully between steps. Second should go very differently to the first. There we go. Little tip here, if you ever want to learn a bit more about your paint, just dilute it in the side of your water cup and see what it does. See how purpley that's going in comparison to how it looks over the black. Claret has hidden depths, literally. Probably going to be good now on the third coat. Worth it to get this type of color as a starting point. All right, our cloak is nearly dry. Time for the power of dry brushing. 1 drop of water off the back of the brush. I'm going to be using a medium here. I recommend using a medium or a medium plus. Do not use a smaller one than that, just because you want a smaller cloak. And actually, if you wanted to use a large, that would be completely fine too. So, got our deep red. You could absolutely achieve an alternative to this by mixing a bit of purple in or a bit of black with a red, and then just transitioning to a pure version of the red. What we're going to do there is using the dampening pad, we're going to try and put down a really, really smooth mix between our 2 colors. The first step is by far the most important. You need to build this up smoothly and gradually. See me testing it on my thumb there. I'll see streaks really easily. And it's just about getting something down. Even if you don't see that you're making too much of a difference, your dry brushing that follows will land better if it's on top of dry brushing. That hand base coat that we put down with normal painting, our dry brushing doesn't want to stick to that as much as it wants to stick to dry brushing. So we're just trying to get a dry brush, like a second base coat down, but it's a dry brush one. You can already see a suggestion of what we're going for. When you get really confident, you can do buffing. And you want to hit a lot of the surface area of your cloak. Keep going and don't rush, take your time. Remember, you can use the dampening pad to help remove paint that's on the brush. And this will help keep things very smooth. It's your base coat. It's very important that this is smooth. There we go. Already looking good. Now it's very simple. We're going to transition to using our second color. And I've not gone to get any of our base coat, but I've not cleaned my brush 100%. So it is still inside my brush. And this is turning that kind of like theater curtain red. It's a nice, sounds like a pretentious paint name, doesn't it? But it's looking good. Your choices here are to continue going with red, or you can add in a little bit of bone. That'd be my recommended highlight. You could go orange if you want, but I just don't think that kind of doesn't give the regal feel nearly as well. I'm going to do one more step. Pretty much the pure cherry. Got a bit more on the brush, so I'm going lighter, holding it further back, not on the metal like you should be normally. When you get really safe, the circles are important. They'll hit the folds from every angle, hit them really well. Okay. Now for your final color, you've got two very easy options. You can either take, this is our carmine, it's a red with a bit of white in it, or you can add a tiny bit of white into your existing red. Depends what you've got access to. I'm going to be mixing this with my previous one, otherwise it might land a little bit too noticeably. Beautiful. And then bone color of choice, sparingly. There's nothing wrong with your final highlight color being pinkish. It's completely cool. It just depends how much of your mini you hit. So we're going to be going soft. We're going to be aiming for very edges. You could absolutely get out a normal brush and just do this with normal highlighting at this step. It's up to you if you want to transition from one to the other. I'm fine with that though. It's looking pretty regal. Okay, I said I'd show you the difference it makes if we use a white base coat, so let's see how much of a difference if we do that. I'll pop down some claret just so you can get a direct comparison. Put it side by side of when we're putting it over black. Obviously that is completely different as a color. Definitely getting a lot more of the purple coming through. We're not going from claret though, we are going to go starting from cherry. So I'm just going to get flat base coat down. This is going to look very, very different. It'll look a lot more classic, punchy, bright Warhammer rather than grimdark future. Okay, so we started with what was our mid last time, but we're going to shade with what was our base. Already, I mean, it's right. Night and day, or day and night, depending on what order you put them in. So the thing with colors like claret or Bagnall Burgundy from Games Workshop is they're very deep, they're kind of sexy and beautiful, but they're not incredible for coverage. What that does mean though is that we can just add a little bit of water and I can slap this down all over this, or aim for shadows in a way that is pretty chill. It's not at risk of putting down great big drifts. It's kind of forgiving. Still using the trusty 4, and we're just looking at it from below. You could airbrush this absolutely if you wanted. Just personal preference. I'm going to manual it though. Aiming from below, got my egg, easy to get the angle. Shouldn't take too long. Any slips, just don't worry about them. Honestly, they won't be a problem very soon. So you can see here, I'm just rocketing around. I've still got the same brush. I've not gone back to my palette. I'm being aided by the fact that this is a big brush. And I could have used a stronger one, but it's quite scary to do that. And it's also quite risky. So maybe you're just better off doing it twice, learning from the first application, going further with a second. Your model will give you, Your model will give you some good guidelines as to where to go. And if you want to just add more towards the bottom because you think it looks cool, or anything else that you discover during play, you want to exaggerate some folds, you want to undershadow things, you'll learn that by taking this approach. You're not in a rush. It's only taken me a couple of minutes. Big brush, enjoy it. And you guessed it, dry brushing time. Really is amazing the difference you can make by doing exactly the same things, just in a different order with painting, and hopefully this is going to be a very good example of it. There's no need to be too careful here. We're basically applying a color over itself with our cherry, but what this should do is any of our stage that we just did, putting back in the shadows that didn't go neatly, this will all but hide it. And kind of without any need for delicacy or particular care either. It's pretty magical. Again, you could add white to your color that you're using. We're going to grab our cardinal, make a mix because we don't want to make too much of a step up. And this is where it will start looking like material. Trying to keep things really soft. Always test. Oh, what a winner. This looks so good. Even hidden a little slip that we had down there. If you wanted, you could have glazed some black at the bottom of the cloak to suggest that it's dirty. In fact, that would look absolutely amazing. I regret not doing that. You do that before you, probably once you've done the repetition of the base coat as a dry brush, then you highlight over it. Oh man, this looks good. I don't know how the stone is going to look good on it, but I feel obliged to go through exactly the same colors that we used on the other cloak, just for illustration purposes. I think it'll be okay. Just want to avoid going too heavy. And it's all right for this color to be pink. Pinky, it just depends how much the cloak you cover. Now that looks outstanding. Really, really good. And this stage I want to do kind of softly and patiently for a long time. I want this to look folded. And you're better off repeating the same color rather than going for more strength, especially when there's the risk attached to this. So there we go. I think that's about enough. I run the risk of going too far now, so. Amazing. Very, very pleased with that. How different are those two? Same colors, different undercoat, different sequence. Okay, so having done two kind of slightly cooler ones, use pomegranate here, which is probably our closest color to Mephiston, which is a favorite of many, many hobbyists. And this is going to be quite a traditional approach. So we're going to base coat it first. And I am doing this over black, but this is a coverage paint, so it should be fine with it. Take a couple of coats. You could airbrush this if you wanted, but just get your base coat down via whatever means you prefer personally. The most important thing is that you don't touch wet paint on drying paint. It's either wet on wet or wet on dry. And a big brush will, as ever, help a lot. What you should find with any color like this or Mephiston is that whatever the first coat does, the second coat is the magic one. However thinly applied the first was, it does make a difference. And it just sets the foundation for your second coat to go down pretty much perfectly. Okay, now if you're using GW colors, using a Byron, it's really weak, which is actually very helpful for this. Whatever black you're using, I would try not to lean towards like a mega strong matte one, and be prepared to feel a bit weird as you go throughout this process. So what should happen is as you add black to your red, you make a deep browny red. And we are literally just going to kind of wetly slap that towards the bottom. Then take a bit more water, remove the paint off our brush and fuzz it out. That didn't look very neat and precise because it wasn't. So I'm kind of bearing in mind what would be the bottom of the cloak. I'm going to let that dry and then we'll repeat it again with a stronger one. I know it feels weird, just it's okay, trust me. If you want to do some of what we did with the previous one, here, under your folds, you absolutely can, or you can wait until you've got the neater black without the red in it, and you can just dilute that a lot, whichever way you prefer. So as you go into the creases, it should start making a little bit more sense. But now we're about to go onto the pure black stage, which will be scary. You can go straight to the pure black stage, but honestly, I've put this step in because I think people would be too afraid. So yeah, you don't have to do this stage. You could go straight to the next one. But I understand why it might not feel very natural. Right, I'm sure you can see kind of where we're going with this now. And hopefully any worries you have about it looking a bit messy or kind of like sloppy, we're gonna just fix in a wanna. Repeat our base coat. Again, paying special attention to just keeping things super smooth. And because most of the lines are going vertically, I'm going to take my strokes horizontally. What we should do here is, if you look in this section in particular, where we've got that kind of tidal stop line, whatever you want to call it, where our sloppy glaze is finished, we should manage to somewhat delete it. So we're pushing it to the background. It's a bit heavy. Okay, we just got to take our dry brushing all over. Remember, this is the first coat of your dry brushing. So you need to kind of lay down some dry brushing for your dry brushing to go on top of. Take your time. And you're just building it up with flat colors, no mixing involved or anything like that. When you get confident, then you should be able to do circles. So that's been pushed to the background. And then we do the same, but with black. And you need to be a little bit careful with this. I'm going to keep this for the recesses. I'm not going to use it for shading really, because I feel that there's a bit too much risk in doing that. So you can make your decisions kind of how I've made mine. Like, do I think this is going to cause me to make a mistake? Am I risking what's already looking quite cool? And then just decide whether that means you want to do whatever it is you're debating. So simply I'm just putting deep dark black in some of the most recessed areas, using it like a wash. There's that ink up. And this is pretty low risk. There's, not much can go wrong here. The further I go, the more dilute it is, the more the water that's inside the brush has kind of overpowered things, so the safer the brush gets. Using a 3 here. Just wanted something a little bit more controllable than the 4 for dilution. Way easier if you only do your scary tasks when your brush feels safer and you feel more confident. Much lower risk. That's what we're all about. The nice thing is that I don't have to be, if you're army painting here, this is still a loosey-goosey process at this stage. Really low risk. Small chance of a big mistake happening. Small chance of a small mistake happening. Notice, because I'm still using a relatively big brush, I've done it all with the same brush load, so as this brush load slowly becomes more dilute and more soft, I can go and go and go. It's not like my brush only stays in one mode and then I have to go and reset it. It's just easier. So my brush is literally starting to dry out now. It's got all fluffy. Barely any moisture left in it. We've used every last drop. I promised classic warm highlights. Fiery red, so we're getting on to chili now. Evil Suns or similar, in addition to Mephiston if you're in GW. They might not look that different, but trust me, they are. Chili's very, very fiery. See the difference in the palette there? Noticeably so in comparison to pomegranate, just a bit more drab. Mix at first. Chili's strong, so we're really going to take care. And then it's up to you. You can repeat this as much as you like. Colors like this orange and Indeed Troll Slayer, if you're using that, they're not particularly strong, so they're very, very helpful for glazing. And as I've said a few times in the tutorial, if you just wait, you can do your edges and stuff while the paint seems a bit stronger. And then when you feel more confident that it's feeling nice and dilute, you know how strong it is, then you can pretty much just go wherever you like. You're not putting down opaque paint, so you'll be putting down a percentage of a mistake if you do make a mistake. And that's a very, very forgiving thing. Final highlight colors, you could pick something salmony. You could just go for the stone that we've used throughout the tutorial. I'll stick with that just to show you a color we've already used so far. We go where the risk is low on the edges. You can put more orange in if you want, just up to you. You stop whenever you think that proceeding would be risky. So if you think you might screw up your good work so far, if you're trying to highlight these folds or whatever, just that's your stop point. You can do pretty much whatever you like with the edges with very little risk, but going into the flat areas, like there, it just carries a little bit of a higher risk, so pick the point that's the safest point to stop at. You can always add more in the future if you want, especially if you're army painting. And I think for me, I've just hit the point now, so call it a day there. Done.